Just to give you an idea, just got home from work. Diesel heater is set to, I don't know if you can see that, whoops. It was set, yeah, diesel heater is set to 25 degrees Celsius. Minus 10, almost minus 11 outside, and it's not even 14 degrees Celsius in here. So, that should tell you something. Good morning. My place is a mess. Disregard that. But doing a little experimentation here at 7 a.m. Last night I had a fire and the buddy heater on low. Right now it's on high because my fire just went out. It's about 6 in the morning right now. Fans aren't spinning. It's completely out. And the temperature, minus 12 degrees, 16 in here. I'm gonna see if the buddy heater alone on high can, you know, keep the place warm enough for the next hour or two. Keep it at least above 13 like the diesel heater did yesterday when it was minus 10, so. Good morning, Ramsey. Want me to put on your fountain for you? Buddy heater still rolling. Wood stove is not. Minus 11. I did just see it say minus 12, so you may as well say same temperature. 14.5 degrees in here. Still, it's not bad. It's not bad. Now that I'm up and around, I am gonna get a fire going. Yeah, then we'll have a little discussion. Check this out. Not sure how bad the lighting is. Do you see this? That's frost. Yep. Oh, 15.5 amps coming in. Not bad for a February day. Yep. 16.2 amps. I can dig it. Also now getting full solar on the EcoFlow too. 220 watts. Somebody else is getting some good solar too, eh? Yeah, I'm talking about you. Oh, somebody else wants some sun too. Rory, I thought you were too gothic for that. No? Okay, well you surprise me every day. It's not great, but it's not terrible. You know, I've seen it way worse. Yeah. It could use a little sweep. I work the next 3 days, so I figured I better sweep that thing out, get it nice and clean, because I'm not going to have time over the next several days to clean it. All part of that wood stove maintenance, baby. That's what we got out of the pipe today. Not too bad, just a little, there's no large flakes or anything. The large flakes are what you have to worry about with regards to chimney fires. Looking a lot better in there, yeah. This is my spot where I dump my ashes and clean out my chimney pipe. Obviously, none of these ashes are hot or even warm. They've been in this can for days, so they're completely cold. You never want to dump your ashes when they're still warm or have embers in them or anything like that, obviously. And obviously you want to do it quite a ways from your home. This time of year, if you really want to feel extra safe, pick some snow up over them. That's fine. Outside chimney pipe check. Ooh. I'm not gonna lie, that looks like it could be done too. Yeah, I should probably do that one as well while I'm at it. Okay, got the extension on my wire brush here. This could be tricky. Might be able to tell, but the last time I cleaned this pipe, I knocked the cap off a little bit, so yeah, it's crooked. Fingers crossed we don't knock it off today. Cap is still intact. Definitely a little bit of a creosote mess there. I didn't want to go way up through to the cap. Normally I do, but where it's not attached well, I went as far up as I could without basically hitting it and knocking it off again. So yeah, I'll have to deal with that in the spring. Check that out. I did not need to run the generator to recharge the power station today. 1% away from 100. Headbuds? Oh, thank you. Rory, what do you think? You like the fire? I know, it's your favorite. I know, mine too. Definitely getting warmer in here. That is what I wanted to talk about in today's video, is heat sources in an RV. Whether you're off-grid or you're tied to some type of shore power, yeah, heat sources, very important. Multiple heat sources, even more important. Obviously, my #1 heat source is right there. #1 heat source for me, I am off-grid, so it makes the most sense. I don't have to run any type of power to heat the place. Obviously, like any other source of heat, it comes with pros and it comes with cons. Let's talk about those. First pro, it is, in my opinion, the best form of heat. I think if I didn't have the wood stove, it just wouldn't be as warm as it is. Okay? So 1, really great source of heat. 2, it's fairly affordable, you know, especially if you're somewhere on your own land, you can pretty much cut the trees yourself and have free heat. Third pro, it is fairly low maintenance. Yes and no. And I say that because I know you just watched me do a bunch of work, including cleaning the stovepipe, scooping ashes. But when I say low maintenance, I mean mechanically nothing is going to go wrong with a wood stove. If I'm running a different type of heater, like a furnace or a diesel heater, something with a motor, yeah, you might run into problems, whether it's electrical or what have you. But with a wood stove, as long as you have a good seal on your door, good rope on your door, bricks inside, and you keep up with the maintenance as far as like cleaning your stovepipe, for the most part, you should be good. A wood stove will last you a very long time. Cons. This can be a pro and a con. I say that because heat from a wood stove is very, very dry. Take a look at that humidity. Quite low. Outside humidity, 60, that's not bad. Inside humidity, it's generally about, it's usually always around 19%. It's quite low. If you are someone who is prone to nosebleeds from the dryness, that might be a problem for you because it is very dry. Personally, I feel like it being dry in here is not a bad thing because typically RVs are very prone to humidity, partly because of poor insulation and mostly because they're heated with propane and things that have high moisture content. For example, when I run the buddy heater, if I'm also using the wood stove at the same time, I don't really have to deal with the high moisture problem, or if I'm cooking I don't have to deal with the high moisture problem because it's actually more dry in here than it is humid. Another con, you can't control the heat really. You get a fire going, I mean, you can really pile the wood in and get a hot fire going, or you can have a little bit of a smaller fire, but there's no way to really control the heat. You can't just turn a dial on a thermostat and have it set to a certain temperature. You just never know. It might be too hot in here, might not be hot enough in here. It's just one of those things. The last con and my least favorite is that wood stoves can be very dirty. I don't just mean dirty from like dragging armloads of wood in here and then having to sweep up the mess from it all the time, but I also mean your walls in general get covered in soot. When I wash down my walls, which I like to think I do every spring, but I may have missed last year, it's quite dirty, and most of that has to do with the wood stove. You know, when you're opening and closing the wood stove door all the time, smoke escapes and you get, you know, kind of like dark, dirty walls. That's just the reality of it. Another heat source in RVs, and I'm going to say that it's probably the most popular heat source, is the RV propane furnace. Mine used to be under here, you know, that's why there's this vent here under the fridge. I've got a vent here where heat used to come out. Got one in the bathroom down there. And lastly, if you can see, one right there in the bedroom. Yeah, as far as I know, all RVs pretty much are equipped with a propane furnace. So I would say that a pro is that it's already there. It's easily available. You already run propane for other things like your water heater, your stove, maybe your fridge if your RV is equipped with a propane or a three-way fridge. So the biggest pro to a propane furnace, I guess, is that they're already there. They're easily available. Second biggest pro, in my opinion, you can adjust the heat, which I miss. I do miss that. My thermostat is in the bedroom, so, you know, obviously, if you can see that little dial there, you can adjust the heat that way. But, alas, I do not have a propane furnace anymore. Not gonna lie, sometimes I do miss that thing, because it was nice to set the temperature, and when the heat gets up to temperature, the blower shuts off. Once it gets below that temperature, it kicks back on again. It's a great thing to have as long as it works when, you know, you have to go away for a day or two, because, you know, you can set it to a certain temperature and it'll kick on and keep the place warm. Let's talk about the cons to a propane furnace. By the way, mine is gone because it stopped working, so that is a con. A lot of times they have breakdowns, they're temperamental, they're costly. Repairs can be costly. Cons to propane furnace: costly repairs, maintenance, you know, all that stuff costs money when things go in those, and they will go in those. One more con: they are not very efficient. They use a lot of propane, especially if you're in a cold climate, like a really cold climate. You're going to go through a lot of propane with a propane furnace. See what I said about not being able to totally control the heat with a wood stove? She's getting warm. Since we're talking about propane heat, let's talk about the most popular propane heater, the buddy heater. A lot of people use these in their RVs. You can run them with the 1-pound green tanks, which don't last very long at all, or you can hook them up to a larger tank with a hose. And don't forget these filters, super important. You'll burn out your heater if you don't, because of the oils and such. So let's see what this little sucker can do. I've been using this on real cold nights. Obviously the wood stove is great, but my bedroom is way back there, and if it's really cold, it's drafty. So having this thing pointed down the hallway towards the bedroom definitely helps. Obviously this is a heater that I only run when I am home. I never leave this running when I'm away. But the cool thing about buddy heaters is they have a sensor in them, so if you tilt them, if something were to knock it over, it'll shut off. I'll show you. See that? It went out, and that's because the sensor sensed that it wasn't upright, and, you know, it could be a fire hazard if it fell over and continued to pump out heat. Another thing that the buddy heater has that not everybody knows about is an oxygen sensor. So when the buddy heater senses that there's a depletion of oxygen in the area, it will automatically shut off as well. Lots of people will try to tell you that that sensor probably doesn't work and blah blah blah, but I actually had a buddy heater shut off on me one time and I had plenty of propane, so the only thing I could think of is that it could sense low oxygen and shut itself off, which isn't a bad feature to have at all. Pros: fairly affordable. It heats a place up in a quick second if you're in a pinch. It's portable. You can take it with you wherever. You can move it around wherever you need it to be. Has the tilt shut off? The low oxygen shut off? Yeah, there are definitely some pros to the buddy heaters. Let's talk about the cons, because there are always cons. Number one, high moisture. The moisture from propane heat in general, always very high. So if you're running propane heat of any sort, I would suggest putting a dehumidifier in your space as well. Second con, the smell. Propane does have a smell. A lot of people get headaches, sometimes sinus headaches from the smell of propane. I know everybody loves this word, but it's moist. Yeah. Yeah, buddy heater definitely does have a bit of a smell. It's just that propane smell. And that can bother some people. Headaches, sinus headaches, what have you. I have gotten sinus headaches, which I'm prone to, from the buddy heater. But yeah, I've also used it all night and woken up without a headache too. So it all depends. The last con that I can think of is that, again, you can't control the heat. You have a high and a low option, but it's going to pump out heat, and then when it gets too hot, you're going to have to shut it off, and then it's going to get cold again, and you're going to have to turn it back on. There's no way to control the heat. There's no way to control the temperature. Fourth heat source that I will talk about that doesn't really apply to me because I'm off-grid, but I know some people live in their RVs tied to the power grid. A very popular one seems to be space heaters. A lot of people are running space heaters as a form of heat. That's totally fine, but that also comes with pros and cons. I don't know because I'm not running a space heater in here, but I'm assuming that it is a pretty good source of heat. They're pretty efficient as far as I know. I did used to have a space heater in an old apartment, and I ran that thing a lot. So good source of heat, also portable. You can kind of move them around wherever your plugs are. If you need heat in the bedroom, put it in the bedroom. If you need heat in the living room, put it in the living room. Cost efficient, running those things isn't too bad. Like I said, they're pretty efficient little units, so I think cost-wise they make a lot of sense too. They probably cost you less than running your propane furnace, to be honest with you. Maybe someone could let me know in the comments below, but I have a feeling that that might be the case. Your power bill for running space heaters is probably less than your cost of propane. Like I said, don't know, don't run one, let me know, but I feel like that's probably the case. The biggest con that I can think of with space heaters, again, I don't run one, I'm off-grid, but I would assume power outage would be, you know, your worst case scenario. So you're running space heaters as your main source of heat, the power goes out, well, if you're not home, I'm sorry, but you're coming back to a pretty cold place. That goes for almost anything because things fail and they break and they need maintenance. So if you're away and your furnace dies, well, then again, you're going to come back to a cold place. Definitely power outage, yeah, wouldn't be very good when it comes to using a space heater. Power outage while you're running your space heater might also burn it out. I'm not sure, but I'm certain that could happen. The fifth and final heat source that I want to talk about in this video is the diesel heater. It is a very popular one with RV life, off-grid life, van life. Diesel heaters are up there and probably one of the most popular heat sources used. I do have a diesel heater. My controller's here. I have it set up underneath here. Sorry, it's real dark. I got my diesel heater set up under here. I removed the propane furnace. And yeah, I really just have it coming out this one vent right here. I would have to say that that is my secondary heat source. And I say that because, you know, obviously the wood stove's number one, but if I'm gone for a certain amount of hours, like at work, I do set the timer on the diesel heater to come on in case the fire goes out, which it usually does. Like everything else, it has a lot of pros and a lot of cons. Pros, they're very affordable. You can buy them quite cheap. You can get more expensive ones. For the most part, they're pretty affordable. You can go on Amazon and get a diesel heater at a good price. Another pro is that you can set the temperature on these things. You can set the timer on these things to come on and to shut off. That aspect makes it similar to a propane furnace, but unlike the furnace that shuts off once it reaches a certain temperature, the diesel heater will continue to pump and the blower will continue. It'll just slow down or speed up depending on whether or not it's reached the temperature that you've chosen on your monitor. I want to turn mine on so I can show you how loud it's been. Whoops. I'm thinking I might have to take this thing apart pretty soon. See if I can get it to make the loud noise it's been making lately. While that is taking its time to fire on, let's talk about the cons of the diesel heater. First con that I can think of is maintenance. Like everything else, sometimes they require maintenance. Like right now, with mine being loud like it is, I'll probably have to take that thing apart. Sometimes the burn chamber can get sooty. There's a bunch of different things. It's also a pro that the parts for them are pretty affordable. Second con, diesel is not cheap. It used to be cheaper than gas, at least where I live, back in the day. Now diesel is definitely quite a bit more expensive than gas. And there's that. She's still smoking. That's not the wood stove, that's the diesel exhaust. Yep. Like I said, maintenance. Some might think it's a con, some might think it's a pro because they're pretty easy to work at and you can kind of work at them yourself. But it's a con when you don't have time to work at them because I gotta find the time to rip that thing apart yet again, so. Okay, well, my diesel heater decided to make a liar out of me. It is not being loud today. The ticking noise you heard is the pump. They always do that. That's not the noise that was bothering me. It was making a loud noise the last couple of times I ran it. And it kind of seems like sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Right now it's being good. It's acting normal. It's not loud. It's not, I don't know. Whew, okay, well, since it's that warm, I have a fire going. You don't need the diesel heater going too, so I'm going to shut that off. By the way, I just took the cover off of there so you could see inside, but yeah, we're going to shut this off. The diesel heater's not being loud and weird tonight, so. Well, maybe it is. Yeah, hear that? The heck is that? It's in cooldown mode, but that doesn't sound right. I think that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to go over some of the most popular and basic heat sources for living in an RV. Those seem to be the most popular ones. Wanted to discuss the pros and the cons. If I missed any, which I'm sure I did, let me know in the comments below. Just remember, when living this way, always have carbon monoxide detectors because they can save your life, as well as smoke detectors, as well as propane detectors. All of those are important. And always have more than one source of heat, please, whatever you do. If you live in a cold climate, having just one source of heat is never a smart idea because if that goes out on you, you're screwed. 2 heat sources are better than 1. 3 heat sources are better than 2. And 1, obviously. But yeah, just remember that. I've got my wood stove, I've got my buddy heater, I've got my diesel heater. Those are my 3 heat sources. If one goes out on me, aka the diesel heater, because I think that's about to, I have 2 more heat sources to work with, so I think I'll be okay. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what your #1 heat source is, what your favorite heat source is if you live this lifestyle, or if you don't live this lifestyle. Whatever. I think that is going to be it from me here. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye. P.S. I realize I ended the last video with a bit of a cliffhanger. I will get there, just not in this video, but eventually I will get there. Just bear with me. Okay. Sounds like an alien spaceship about to land. What the hell?